Today on the MrMaple Show podcast, Matt and Tim count down the top 40 weird Japanese maples. Weird.
All right, guys, today we're talking about maple weirdos. So these are really outside the box. These are unique. These are things that don't fit the norm. A couple years ago, we did a whole series. We did a showcase, and we called them the Japanese Maple Weirdos Part 1 and 2. And it was just a showcase on our MrMaple YouTube channel. Today, we're going to dive into an entire podcast of this. So kind of the outside the box, the unique. Coming in here, number 40 for weirdos, we got Michael James.
No, we're talking
about our weird customers.
No,
it was a close runner up. Mike V, Chris Adelet, we got them all in there. This is the top 40 weird customers, right? Maple weirdos,
guys. We're talking about the top 40 Japanese maple cultivars that are the weirdos. We got the Japanese maple weirdos. The maple
was at number one. I don't think anybody would be offended. I was good.
Yo, we've got the top 40. I'm Tim. That's my brother Matt. We're MrMaple.com. We sell Japanese maples online through Mr. Maple. We're a family mail order business. And we love Japanese maples. I mean, Matt's a former president of the Maple Society, and so am I. And we love Japanese maples. We do a weekly podcast about this. If you're not subscribed, make sure you hit subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. If you give us a 5-star review, we'd really appreciate that as well.
Hey, if you love Japanese maples, you'll never be a weirdo with us because you're in good company. We are the Japanese Maple Weirdos. We love talking about trees. And we've got a lot of fun, passionate customers. I joke about being weirdos, but these guys are awesome. Come check us out at one of our open houses. Depends on when you're listening to this when one's coming up, but definitely come visit Mr. Maple in person and see one of our open houses. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great community.
Now, guys, what we've done is we've ranked the Japanese Maple weirdos. These are Japanese maples that are weird for some reason or another. Honorable mention, I got Peve multicolor. It's kind of weird. Sometimes it throws on this crazy variegation that is just unreal, and then sometimes that variegation's not there. I mean, it is a variegation that's unlike anything else, with pinks and whites just sort of malting and sand dusted. Kind of weird.
Sounds like the weirdos are the coolest things.
It's kind of like that.
So why these are weird really is they have a unique trait that really sets them apart from the rest of the maples. So they're not all Japanese maples on this list. We kind of stuck a few other weirdos in here, but these things kind of stand out from the rest. They have some kind of unique quality that really, dignifies them from the rest of the maples. When you look at the whole of Japanese maples, some of these are going to really stand out. Now, coming in here at number 40, we went with Acer palmatum geisha. Now, this is an interesting older introduction. Geisha is, it's a weirdo for sure. You might not realize how weird this one is, but it doesn't seem like most other Japanese maples.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly weird because it's variegated. It's pink, and it's so pink, and it's so variegated that it even throws on this little weird sort of red, like dark red sort of curved sport every once in a while on the leaf itself. And it's slow growing, but it throws sports on it occasionally that look like Geisha Gone Wild. Mm-hmm. And that's where Geisha Gone Wild and Shiraz originated. Very unstable and definitely a weirdo. I mean, there's nothing else quite like Geisha.
Tends to be a smaller globe-shaped plant, typically, like 5x5 or even 6x6 in a very long time. You want to give this one protection from the hot afternoon sun. Geisha itself is so unique. It's kind of volatile. It does tend to throw, some different variances there. It's not uncommon to find Shiraz, Geisha Gone Wild-like sports on this one. I've also had it throw all red before, so you get an all red tree sometimes out of this. It's a unique plant. The exact plant, though, itself has this incredible shade of pink, so it's really unique. You want to give this one protection from the hot afternoon sun for sure. You don't want to be putting this one in a full sun exposure, but really out there, really different.
Now, one of the things that's weird and about geisha that really makes it a weirdo is it's a slow growing plant. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a plant that you want to make sure you don't overwater. People can often overwater trees that are that variegated and that slow growing. Give it plenty of good drainage, but the sport that happens on it, Geisha Gone Wild,
more vigorous.
It's more vigorous.
Yeah.
And it's like it mutates to be a plant that is more vigorous And it's just crazy. I mean, it's
Weirdo.
Definitely a weirdo. And it's an amazing plant in itself, though. It's one of the pinkest trees out there, but it is slow growing. And again, it's one of those trees that people often overwater and overlove a little bit. But geisha, an amazing plant.
All right, coming in here at number 39, we've got Peve starfish. Don't be a weirdo and call it peavy. That sounds like a weirdo if you say it that way. If you say, hey, I want a peavy, I'm like, you're a weirdo.
Hey, we're talking about weirdo in a positive way, though, so be a weirdo and don't call it peavy. Y'all, Peve starfish is an amazing plant. It's got that weird leaf morphology. The leaf cups downward. Looks like a little starfish out there. It's an upright red Japanese maple, mid-sized, typically in that 6 to 8 foot kind of range in 10 years. But it is a weirdo. I mean, there's nothing quite like it that has that extreme cup down leaf.
Very unique. This one, easy plant to get kids into gardening with. You've heard us talk about that before. 6 foot, typically even in 10 years, so smaller stature. Brilliant fall colors. Cherry, pink, red fall colors. I love the fall color on this one. Great plant, though, and it's very unique. It's kind of one of those plants that evokes a critter vibe, because it's got the starfish in there, so it kind of makes you think of kind of having a theme to your garden sometimes. Like maybe you can have a whole little under the sea theme going on with this one. It's a unique plant that really kind of has something, interactive about it. Like since it has that critter in there, it feels like something more in the animal world than in the plant world a little bit. And for that reason, kids really always get drawn to this one. They're always going to come back and check out the starfish.
But it's got a really good red fall color. It's a good mid-sized tree for people to grow in the landscape. But you put it out there, it is a weirdo. I mean, people are going to look at it and say, what the heck is that thing? Because the way the leaves cup downward, and you say, hey, that's a starfish. And they immediately recognize this as this really unique starfish Japanese maple.
What a weirdo. All right, coming in here at 38. I'm going to say after every tree, what a weirdo. Coming in here at number 38, we've got another weird one. We've got that pink panther.
Whew, what a weirdo. Pink panther, early spring. It is one of the pinkest Japanese maples I've ever seen, but the leaf is like an Osakazuki leaf. And when you see this tree leafing out in the early spring, I mean, it's insane on the colors and the intensity of the pink. I've never seen another Japanese maple that has that kind of intensity on the pink color in the spring.
You get some really bright shades of like neon pink. So give this one a little bit of more early morning sun, late day shade to intensify it. Kind of feels like it has a little bit of Olivier in it. Not something I know for sure, but it is interesting. Very unique plant. I love the color pattern. Fast grower. Typically over a foot of growth a year on this one, so it gets out there. But man, the color pattern on this is just phenomenal. I mean, it looks good with everything in the garden. It's been one we've been increasing numbers in because it just absolutely glows. And for that reason alone, that it's such a unique shade of pink, it's got to be on the weirdo list.
All right, coming in next at number 37, we've got Acer palmatum Judith Ann. This is a weirdo because it's a yellow upright lace leaf. That's right. I said it's upright and it's a lace leaf. If any of y'all are familiar with Japanese maples, Seryu is the only upright Japanese maple that's really strongly upright. Well, Judith Ann was a seedling found from Seryu that had that more yellow color.
If your name's Judith Ann, we're not calling you a weirdo. We're calling the tree a weirdo. But the weirdos are the interesting ones. I love this plant. It's one of the very most next level plants. Like this one is to Seryu what yellow threads is to Koto no Ito. You get a unique, different trait to it. You're getting a yellow vibe going on here. Absolutely love it. Again, if you give it early morning sun in the spring, it actually gets more of a glowing, kind of ethereal yellow hue to it. You get that highlighter yellow. It's super interesting. Great orangey red fall colors on this one. And the same vigor. You get a lot of vigor like you do with Seryu. So this one tends to get out there. Judith
Ann, though, has that bright yellow color and good vigorous habit. It's one of those trees out there that is really beautiful. I have noticed giving it some protection from the hot afternoon sun will increase the growth rate. If you're growing this yellow in more sunlight, it will be a slower grower because it doesn't grow as fast as it does in partial shade. But that a little bit of sunlight does peak up that yellow color on Judith Ann. Next level plant, very different than mostly everything else I've ever seen. And as we go down this list, these trees are going to get weirder and weirder.
It's getting weird. Things are getting weird.
Things are getting weird.
In the best possible way.
Coming at number 36, we've got a very weird tree. We've got Acer palmatum Gable's Glory.
I love Gable's Glory. Now, we'll talk about the first time we saw it. We saw it at Del Alc's place for the first time. And I think we all stood around, this little 1 gallon looking down on the ground. And we're like, that is weird. That's so weird because the color is metallic-y red. Like you get some crazy shades on it. You know, as it gets into summer, you get some yellowish older growth with this crazy weird red going on top of it. I've had orangey brick red at times. It's one of those ones that continues to change. You know, there was some talk about calling this the chameleon maple, and I like that kind of like as a common name a little bit for that one. But Gable's Glory, just super interesting. I've had it have yellowish stems some winters. I've had it leaf out more orange. I've had it get more, you know, what's typical is that reddish new metallic-y color over top of yellow midsummer, which is just weird. And I absolutely love it.
Now, the color vibe on Gable's Glory in the spring is almost like a Yaguri kind of look, which is very different. Now, Yaguri is a classic old Japanese maple you don't see much in the trade, but it's got that metallic-y kind of pink-red kind of color going on. It'd be real interesting to know what was the lineage of Gable's Glory. Where the heck did this tree come from? Because it is so starkly different because it gets that yellow color in there on top of also having that crazy pink-red color. You know, we got this through Dell Laux, but Dell said that this was a selection by Larry Gable. You know, I'd love to find somebody who knew him and know where this tree originated because it is a next level tree, but it is super weird on its colors.
Tim said vibe. No cap, dude. We just had somebody in here for an interview right before we filmed this podcast, and he was like, I went to the same high school as y'all. It's like, yeah, I graduated in 2000. Tim's like, I graduated in 2006. And he was like, that's the year I was born. I'm going, please say 2000. Nope, it was 2006. Tim sounded a little millennial there. With it. No, younger than millennial. We're millennials, I guess. I don't know if you can, but no, the vibe check on the Gable's Glory there. All right, guys, coming here at number 35, we've got the Batwing Maple. We've got Acer Pictum Usugumo.
Now, Usugumo has those large batwing leaves the Acer Pictums have. And in the springtime, it leaves out a little bit of coral at first, but then it gets this really weird milky-like variegation on it.
It is weird.
And, I mean, I don't really know how to describe it because it's kind of reticulated. It's kind of dusting. It kind of looks like you just spilled milk all over it.
Now you're really selling it to him. Wow. Line up today for the 10 of 10 for your milky spilt plant.
But it's weird. It's weird, but it's awesome.
It is weird that I like that. Yeah, it sounds terrible when you say it that way, but I do like it. Very weird. Sometimes we would describe this one as eerie. A little spooky going on. Because you got that big batwing maple, but then you got that like just swirling going on throughout the leaf. I've had this one be pale white. I've had it be pink in the spring. I've had it throw some really irregular growth on there, all with reticulation going on as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those trees that's just so unusual and different. People see those big batwing leaves too, and it's just a very attractive. You're drawn into it because you haven't seen things quite like it. And getting that sort of unique variegation on that bigger batwing style leaf is just super awesome in so many ways.
It's an attractive weirdo.
But it's an attractive weirdo. It is. And that's the reason people like it, because it's weird.
Our wives are attracted to weirdos. You know that? All right, coming in here at number 34, we've got Ruby de Sofia.
Now, Ruby de Sofia is a unique reticulated selection of an Acer palmatum that's almost ghost-like, and it's got some unique pastel kind of colors to it, some coral pinks and some pastels.
Brilliant red fall color.
But the branches hook a little bit and sort of twist and curve and go different directions.
It is funky. This one brings the funk for the weirdos. It's unique. No two of them look exactly the same. It's not corkscrewing, but definitely contorted. You get a lot of weird branching going on this one, which is super interesting for a ghost-style Japanese maple with that reticulated foliage. Big leaves. I mentioned it, but brilliant red fall color. I mean, this one's fall color is really choice. The thing that makes it a weirdo, though, is that shape. That shape is very odd for a reticulated variegated maple. You don't tend to see Japanese maples have that non-conformative shape like that.
And the original Ruby de Sofia had these knuckles on it that just sort of twisted and curved, which is just...
It's like the Blues Brothers. It's got weirdo written across the knuckles.
It's weird. All right, y'all. Coming in at number 33, we've got another weird one. And this one's weird because it's just weird. Shiroyuki no Mei, which means like white snow ballet dancer.
Very cool plant. Rare one from Japan. You can even get white bark in this one, making it super weird. I think that's probably the weirder characteristic of this one. I would say only this and Snow Kitten ever get that pale of a bark. You'll see it sometimes on the new growth on Snow Kitten. You'll see it on very old branches of this one. I mean, you'll see white bark in it.
I mean, on our stock plants of it, I mean, it's white like all the way down to the graft right now. And, you know, we've had those trees 6-7 years. And it's super, super weird. The other thing that makes it difficult to produce this one is because when we graft it, we take a cutting of it, and if it sits around anytime, it starts to change colors like you would, you know, if you cut into an apple.
Yeah.
And so it's just weird.
Yeah, you would say the same thing of Bihu, but even more extreme. This one you have to graft it right away. Shirayuki no Mai, very beautiful. I love one of the most white, glowing, pale Japanese maples I've ever seen. Your predominant colors on this are, you know, a white pale color, like a very bright white. Like you think of, you know, like removal of color almost. Like it's one of the more pale whites. Like, and then the secondary color being a green is very unique because it's kind of one of those subtraction addition things. Like it's so complex because of what it isn't. Like it's just white and green. Like it's so cool looking.
Yeah, I mean, there's not any other Japanese maples quite like it. I've never seen anything that has as white of a bark as Shirayuki no Mai. And it's one of those trees that we've never quite offered because it's hard to get in production.
It's coming.
It's coming, but I mean, it is super rare, super awesome, and super next level.
All right, guys, coming in here next, we've got at 32, Shirayu no Sume, the Claw of the Dragon.
Oh, man, that thing's weird. I remember the first time I saw that, we were in New Jersey, and I saw it at Ed Shin's, and I was just like, that thing is weird, because it's got these leaves that sort of twist and curl and look like little dragon's feet. I mean, they look like feet out there, and that's the reason it gets the name of Shirayu no Sume, but it's an Acer subuldianum. And so it's kind of like you have a slight linearlobum-like subuldianum, but it's still a little more claw-like, too. I mean, there's not another Japanese maple that has a leaf like Shirayu no Sume.
You ever seen a dragon?
On TV?
I was going to say, how do you know what their feet look like?
Maybe they look like Komodo dragons.
Maybe. Does this look like Komodo dragon feet? Interesting. Anyway, awesome looking plant. He'll be a weirdo. It's an awesome plant. I love the fall color on this one, too. I've had brilliant oranges and reds, typically more orange early. Just beautiful plant. I've got this in my garden. Nice mid-sized tree, 6 to 8 foot in that kind of size range in 10 years. Great structure, multi-stemmed. It tends to want to fill out a lot. But yeah, looks like dragon claws coming at you in the garden.
I mean, pretty awesome whenever it comes to a Japanese maple that has that unique style of leaf. And that's the reason it's very weird. And it's a subuldianum. I mean, all the other subuldianums have, leaves that look more like a full moon maple. This thing, very different and very weird.
Coming in here at number 31, we've got Vercade's Jacus Potus. Now, who knows, this could be what dragon feet look like. I don't know. I've never seen one. Vercade's Jacus Potus, though, very unique. I love the spring color. It's got that sessilifolium angel feather style leaf. So what you think of with like Koshimino or Hagoromo, but this one's got a plethora of crazy colors on top of that.
Have you seen an angel's feather before?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Where?
I'd rather not talk about it.
Yo, Vercade's Jacus Potus, though, is that small to mid-sized tree with just unique colors. Selection by Dave Vercade in New Jersey. We got a hold of this tree very early on and really got it out there in the trade to a lot of collectors. It's colorful, and it's got a leaf like no other. I mean, before this, the more popular, very common varieties were like Koshimino and Hagoromo, and they just had unique leaves. And, that was what people thought of. Nowadays it's even harder to find those trees in the trade because things like Vercade's Jacus Potus have that similar leaf style, but such unique color.
I love it. Very, very beautiful. It's not uncommon to have like apricots, oranges, and pinks, and almost some reds going on this one. The petioles are almost different colors. Sometimes I've had pale pinks on those. Really colorful and showy, especially in the early spring. So if you like unique leaf structure and extreme color, it's a great plant to be trying. I absolutely think it's super next level. And again, we love sessilifoliums. I mean, I think we kind of went nuts and collected all the different sessilifoliums that are possible when we were getting started. But this one being one of the most next level weirdos of that group.
Now, Vercade's Jacus Potus was one of the original reasons we started doing the Japanese Maple Weirdos showcases on the MrMaple Show on YouTube. And that's coming at 31. And this is getting weirder from there. Coming at number 30, we've got Acer subuldianum Yayoi Gasa. This is an Acer subuldianum, and we've got some ideas that it may be a subuldianum hybrid, but it was collected on the coast of Japan by a Dr. Creech of the National Arboretum. And it's just got these huge, ginormous Acer Subuldianum-like leaves.
It's the biggest leaf Subuldianum if it is straight Subuldianum. Sue Egriff opened our minds up to some different things. We started thinking about things a little differently after one of our podcasts with her because she mentioned that Subuldianums could potentially hybridize and Pseudosubuldianums with Japonicum. So interesting.
It looks like that.
Yeah, it would certainly make me think a little bit about that because it has big leaves like something like Vitifolium. The biggest Subuldianum leaf I've ever seen. Brilliant shape. I love it. The leaf definitely makes me think Subuldianum, but I love it. It's got a really unique structure to it. Beautiful plant. And again, dinner plate size leaves. So you get a really interesting leaf.
All right, guys, coming to number 29, we've got Acer palmatum okushimo. Now the leaves on this, they curl upward and look almost like the tree is drying out.
I've had some experts here at the nursery grab it in a 3-gallon and go over and start turning our water on without asking. So yeah, people sometimes water this one. We had a prominent plant guy here one time and he was like, oh no, this one's not getting watered. And without asking, he'd already ran to the corner and turned the little faucet on and was trying to water it. And I was like, no, this is what it does. So it's a bit of a weirdo. Okushimo, the salt and pepper maple is just the pepper maple. It's got a lot of cool coloration going on. It kind of gets that cupped up look to it. You get almost like a variegated look to it because of that cupped up look too. The bottom side of the leaf's a little softer. So you get like a yellow and a lime green kind of vibe going on in the early spring. Beautiful golden yellow fall colors as well. Some of the best fall colors I've ever seen. More of a light green most of the time, but just a unique plant. And that cupped up look just gives it a little something extra going on, especially in the early spring. I mean, it's not variegated, but it kind of gives you those kind of vibes a little bit.
Yeah, you get to see the back side of the leaf is one color. The front side of the leaf is a different color. And when it's curled up, you get this unique multicolored effect there. And Okushimo is just texturally very interesting in the garden. When they're all curled up and pointed upward, you begin to realize that when you see a big tree, that this tree is meant to do this. And the bold orange fall color is next level in Okushimo too. Definitely a Japanese maple weirdo. There's some other selections that are similar, like Hippie Fin Mo, Kuruai Jishi, which is a little bit slower growing, and Crispa, I believe, may actually be the exact same thing as Okushimo itself. One of the versions of Crispa. Amazing, super awesome Japanese maple weirdo. All right, coming in at number 28, we've got Acer, and we believe Oliveranum X Mystic Jewel.
This thing is weird. I love the colors on it. I've had years where it leafed out more yellow in the greenhouse, but typically with more sunlight, this one gets some of the weirdest, funky shades of lavender. You get this bold lavender purple color. It's unlike really anything else. Fast grower. We think probably Oliveranum based on that growth rate and leaf structure. Maybe a hybrid with palmatum, but Mystic Jewel really brings it for the color.
This lavender fade that's just crazy. You don't find it on any other Japanese maples. There's a chance it could be some other type of species maple. I mean, there's 72 other different species in section palmata. I typically would say give it some morning sun with protection from the hot afternoon sun for the best growth rate, the best colors of Mystic Jewel.
All right, guys, coming in here at number 27, we got the Nan Yat. Now, this is a combination of two of my favorite trees. Bob Balzer, we got to meet him. It was an honor. He kind of combined the names to get this one, so it's kind of a funky name. His wife's name's Nancy, and he liked Macao Yatsubusa, so it's Nancy Yatsubusa. That's how you get that combination to get the Nan Yat. But it's a combination of two trees, too. I think it is a almost perfect combination of Shishigashira and Aoyagi. You get a lot of what you like about both those, that green bark, but also that Shishigashira-like foliage.
I mean, it's one of those combinations that just works together. I mean, it's like the combination Pizza Hut and Taco Bell.
That's where you go for great combinations?
I think about that awesome song that we used to listen to sometimes going to garden shows. I'm at the Pizza Hut. I'm at the Taco Bell. I'm at the combination Pizza Hut and Taco Bell. You can go there and get the best of both worlds. You can go get both.
You would assume you would have picked like a nice wine pairing with a steak or something, like combinations. Tim's like Pizza Hut and Taco Bell. That's my combination.
Y'all, Nanyat gives you that bright yellow green bark that everyone loves with something like Aoyagi. And then you get that great combination of that uniquely textured leaf of something like the Shishigashira. So you pair those two things together, and it's just a winning creation.
What a weird thing to think of when you think of combinations. I'm still wondering what you order at the combination Pizza Hut and Taco Bell. Nanyat, a little classier than that. I'm gonna upscale it here. So I love this one. Brilliant fall color too. Neon yellow fall color. It rivals Aoyagi for the fall color, but it has shikishira like foliage. So I mean, super interesting plant. Weirdo though through and through. I mean, this one's interesting. It doesn't really look like either of those. It kind of makes its own plant, more rounded shape to it, but you kind of get vibes of both those, and so it stands out. And it's got to be on our weirdo list.
I remember when Bob took us to see the original tree, and he took us back and showed us this tree in this like large container, and it was really tight and dense. And it starts to get that way with age. It was surprising to me when we grafted it and how it was vigorous at a young age, and how I've seen them start to grow out. And they're vigorous at a young age, but then they start tightening up and becoming more dense as it ages, and that just makes it really unique because it looks more Shishigashira-like as it ages.
Yeah, a lot of times when we're visiting nurserymen, we'll ask them what they introduced, which is a common question for us to ask. But then we'll also ask, what do you wish you'd introduced? Now, when we asked Bob that, Bob lit up right away. So when they light up like that right away, they got a good answer. So you're already excited. Then we go kind of foraging through this area. We kind of like rummage through this big area of maples, and we get back to this 10-gallon plant, and he's like, I wish I would introduce this. This is my Nanyat. Absolutely loved it. Made an impression for me from then on.
But it's weird.
It is weird. It's super out there. Coming in here at number 26, we've got a classier combination than Pizza Hut and Taco Bell. We've got another combination plant. I'll throw this one in the combination. We've got the latest member, possibly of the Ghost series. Could be the start of something new. We've got Ghost Cascade, y'all. This one is kind of a combination of something like Grandma Ghost and Jiro Shidari. Really unique characteristics here. This one is at Buckholz Farm, and it's a weeping form that's also reticulated.
Yeah, it's one of the newest selections by Talon Buckholz, and it has such a unique shape. We bought Buckholz Nursery in 2023, and as we've, go and visit and spend time there, and we spend weeks and weeks there walking around the greenhouses, we started saying, hey, this is an awesome tree. Matt said, this is an awesome tree. I'm going to name it Daddy's Girl after my daughter. And then, I found this other weeping lace leaf, and it's reticulated, and I said, Green Lantern.
So Talon was like, hey, ain't missing this one.
Yeah, he knew we were coming, and he quickly ran, and he'd been hiding this tree somewhere.
I'd almost owned the nursery for a year, me and you, at this point, and I hadn't seen this 10-gallon Weeping Ghost series plant. I'm like, where did this come from?
And he said, this is my newest introduction, Ghost Cascade. I mean, one of his last trees he's put a name on so far, and it is amazing.
Super next level in production. We'll have it here first at Mr. Maple Ghost Cascade. Again, a weirdo because it's kind of a combination of a Ghost series and a weeping Jiro Shidari-like shape. Super next level. So from the last plant that Talon's named, he might name some more, to his first tree at number 25, we've got Fairy Hair.
That's a weirdo. I mean, it looks like hairs on a fairy. Very weird. The leaves are a linerlobum, but it's one of the thinnest linerlobums of any of those style strap leaf Japanese maples. And it looks like little strings. I mean, that is what it looks like, especially in the early spring when it first leaves out.
Did you go to a combination Pizza Hut and Taco Bell for lunch? Things are getting weird.
It has those conifer-like vibes on a Japanese maple, which is weird. I mean, you think of most pine tree when you're walking up. You think it's some unique evergreen from a distance, and then as you get up closer and closer, you're shocked to realize that it's a Japanese maple.
Excellent plant, great fall colors too. We've got two of the biggest ones in the world at Buckholz Nursery. The first two grafts of it, one's on the ground, one's in the container. When that thing hits fall color, oh my gosh, it is glowing, absolutely glowing pink and red. Beautiful plant, very open, airy. It kind of has a whimsical look to it. Super next level.
Yeah, I mean, Fairy Hair, and it's just so awesome. I mean, Talon, it was so interesting to me that Talon with Fairy Hair talked about how hardy and resilient this tree was for him out in the ground. And I started realizing that here at the nursery, I've been treating it like many other Japanese maples and overwatering it. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with this selection is because it has such thin needles, it doesn't need as much water as your typical other Japanese maple out there. So make sure you're not overwatering your Fairy Hair in your garden.
All right, guys, coming in here at number 24, we got a real weirdo. We've got Acer Campbellii Bony Fingers.
Oh, man, it just keeps getting weirder.
It's getting weird here. It's getting weird fast.
This is a Acer Campbellii, so it's one of those other maples in Section Palmata, but this is one that has almost like a Makawa-like habit. So it's got those tightly layering habit to it, but the leaves are sort of twisting as well.
Looks like bony fingers reaching up from the grave to grab you when you walk through the garden.
That's weird.
That is weird. It is super interesting. It's got kind of elongated foliage because of it too. It's super interesting. It's next level. It's going to be a green throughout the spring and summer. I've had orangey red fall colors on this. Just an absolute anomaly amongst maples. You don't see many plants that look like this one.
And it gets kind of a coral pink new growth to it. There aren't many Acer Campbelli selections. That's Campbell's maple. It's a maple that's native to China and some parts of Asia. And this is clearly a hybrid with a Japanese maple. I mean, you get those traits that you like on many of your dwarf Japanese maples, that tight, dense form. But then that gnarly leaf to it, it just makes it weird.
It's making it weird. Let's move along before it gets any weirder. And things are getting weirder as we move along. At number 23, we've got Shazam. This is Acer palmatum Shazam. This is an Area 51 introduction, but it actually comes from nurseryman Bobby Green. Now, Bobby Green showed us this one when Tim and I were presenting grafting at the International Plant Propagator Society. He mentioned having this plant to me. So many years later, I got signed wood from him. We were up there presenting, and he goes, "Hey, I've got something you need to see." And he showed me a picture of it. And it's a palmatum red that has japonicum-sized foliage. So that's pretty weird. I mean, I'm interested. Whenever you get weird, it takes a lot to make me and Tim think it's weird. I mean, we've been doing this our whole lives, professionally almost 20 years now. We've named a few trees. We don't name a lot of plants, but it takes a lot for something to stand out as truly unique and interesting to Tim and I nowadays. Shazam, it's weird. It stood out from the lot.
And it's weird. I mean, sometimes you can have vigorous growth on a plant that has different style leaves. But with Shazam, he had a mature, like big red Japanese maple, and then some leaves on the tree would be ginormous while other trees would be smaller. And it was very, irregular across the entire tree. It wasn't just new growth. And it was one of those trees that stood out to him. And I said, this is a top breeder in camellias. If this stands out to him, we need to be producing it. It was years later when we were down in Mobile, Alabama at the Gulf States Horticulture Expo when he gave us signwood on this and we started evaluating it. It was just a seedling that was in his dad's backyard at the time. I mean, we started grafting this tree and it did the exact same things that he told us.
Yeah.
You had those really ginormous leaves and then regular size leaves for Aminum. But then you'd have those really ginormous leaves again. And so we decided, why not call it Shazam?
We're weirdos. We also like comic books. There's a lot of comic book themed plants. We've been weirdos for a while, actually, Tim. We were weirdos about comic books before we were weirdos about maples. It's actually around the same time. We've been weirdos a long time about maples. Anyway, great looking plant here. Huge foliage. Stands out. Again, you'll have some foliage that's smaller, some foliage that's massive. Another plant that before we bought Buckholt's farm, we shared with Talon Buckholtz, and he was like, this thing's crazy. It made it into his lineup as well. Very unique, very different. I think it's one that's got just something extra. Like you see that when you saw a different looking tree. There's a lot of upright reds, right? There's a lot of upright reds. So for a weirdo upright red, this one makes the cut because it's different. It stands out. When you compare this to all upright reds you've ever seen, it's a little bit more of a weirdo.
I mean, you think about us weirdos who like comic books. It's a little kid that shows Shazam and then he turns into like a Superman-like superhero.
I always like Superman. Shazam's kind of weird.
He is kind of weird. He's like a little kid that turns into Superman, but it's all through magic. Well, there's something magical about Shazam with those leaves at just two different sizes.
So he started out as Captain Marvel, but then Marvel sued him for that. And then another comic sued him for that. And so eventually he became Shazam, which is just what he yelled to turn into Captain Marvel. Now Captain Marvel's like a lady. The whole story's weird. So we didn't name it Captain Marvel. We named it Shazam, which was originally just what he yelled to turn into Captain Marvel.
Don't be weird, Matt.
They actually sued the original company. I think it was, I don't know, I'd have to look. But they actually sued the original company and got the rights to this. It wasn't written by DC. They sued them and took it away because they said it was too close to Superman. But then Marvel got the name back for Captain Marvel. Anyway.
Very weird. But that's where the name came from. Acer palmatum Shazam. Now coming at number 22, we got another weird one. This one is a weird lunar lobum.
Silver Sword. This one is super cool, guys. This one's coming at Mr. Maple eventually. We've got it in the works. This one is kind of like an Ukigumo-looking lunar lobum. So you get some variegated tips. You get that sword-like effect on a lunar lobum.
Yeah, I mean, it is eerie and awesome all at the same time. I've never seen this style of variegation on a linerlobum. I mean, there aren't many linerlobums that have variegation. I've seen a variegated sport that was unstable on a linerlobum before, but I've never seen a stable variegation. And this one appears to be very stably variegated.
I've had seasons where it looked more Ukigumo. I've had seasons where it looked more ghost-like. So it's a weird plant. It's definitely variegated. Next level. You want to leave this one out slow for its best color. Super interesting, though. We think it's going to be around kind of that 8-foot range in 10 years.
And this is one we have in production.
Golden, yellow fall colors have been typical, but I've had some oranges in there as well. Really unique.
And this is what's coming in at number 22. Coming in at number 21, we got another weird one. We got Troll's Foot.
Talked a lot about dragon feet. Talked about angel feathers. This one actually looks like a troll's foot because it's in the name. So this one is a troll's. So a lot of people might not know this. We've actually bought a few nurseries over the years. We bought all the plants from Highland Creek Nursery. We actually didn't buy the name Highland Creek Nursery, but we bought Highland Creek Nursery from Brian Upchurch back in 2013 because that was when I first started dating Amy. We were still moving things over. An introduction he had. We're getting it back into production. We actually pulled the stock plant, got it cut, got signwood on it going. Troll's Foot.
Now, this has a unique variegation that's almost like Dr. Seuss, but it looks a little more ugly with it.
Yeah, it's weird, man.
It's weird.
It's ugly. You're going to love this one. It's crazy. This one is super unique, guys. Like, I would say it almost has a little bit more of that sessilifolium-like structure sometimes, so you get a little bit of the elongated look to some of it. But overall, it's not a sessilifolium leaf.
And you get this weird, just irregular variegation on it, which is very sport-like. It was found as a chance seedling that he was grafting to. So he was going through rootstock, and he found this one seedling and was like, that's weird. And then he told us, he said...
he literally said this was weird. That's why it had to be on the list.
He said, this is a collector plant.
Isn't this the weirdest thing you've ever seen? I believe that's how it was described to us.
Only collectors are going to like this. I'm like, that's our whole market.
Everybody used to tell me that, like Brian and Fred and everybody were like, oh, this is only a collector plant. It's like, luckily for us, our whole business now is collector plants. So that's like the most popular plants we do are collector plants. We're not trying to corner the market on, I guess, the most mainstream thing, but collector plants, good place to be still.
Now, Troll's Foot has this weird bronze kind of color. So it's not even your typical like sport-like variegation kind of color whenever you get that. I mean, it's got this weird bronze-like color, especially in the early spring, which makes it more Troll Foot-like.
If you're into this, if you like troll feet, you probably are a weirdo, by the way. That sounds terrible. Oh, man. You're a troll foot weirdo. Now, I love it. Had to be on the list, though. This one's super odd.
But I will say, I couldn't find a photo for it. So we'll have to have a photo later. So
I'll check my hard drives. We'll see.
I don't think we'll have one for this podcast for the YouTube component side of things. We do often air this whole podcast with the video component with photos. But I think we're going to be short on the photo for that one. Y'all, that was 40 through number 21 on our Japanese Maple Weirdos.
You're going to have to tune in next week for the top 20 weirdos in the maple world.
Same maple time, same maple channel.
You're making it weird. Let's get out of here before it gets any weirder. Guys, we appreciate you watching us today. If you haven't already, make sure to give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Then head on over to the MrMaple Show on YouTube and make sure to subscribe there as well.
Y'all, appreciate it. Appreciate all y'all weirdos out there. Take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.
Weirdo.